upload them to YouTube from now on. But what were you finishing? Because I cut out. Technology
Did
didn't
it,
like me, but where were
did it
you?
kick us off or?
It kicked me off, and then I was trying to get on, and I was watching on my computer, and then it kicked you off on my computer. So
So
I'm
I
done
was
with YouTube.
I was finishing where, yeah, let's go Facebook and like Instagram or something. Let's bring the viewers what they need, because
Yeah,
we had people on, which was great. I felt
I know
bad.
we had
So I
five
finished
people
with,
on.
I was finishing with, as took that off from the stock market. Like if you want to do linear, it's more like putting funds into a slower growth. Like you're going to get some return, but it's not going to be as quick. Where if you go into more of the strength training from 3 to 6 reps, undulating, you're going to get more return of investments quicker because you're using heavier loads. And depending on the person's goal, where they want to go, that's what's going to determine what avenue of strength training to use, right? So it's this, do I want to gain a lot of hypertrophy? We can start talking about, going, I don't like the word bodybuilding, but like if you want to get hypertrophy and grow muscle mass, you still want to train with heavy loads. Like I think people get confused that they're like, oh, well, I need to do, on the squat sets at 10 to 12. Yeah, been there, done that. It does work, but you don't get stronger. And going back to type 2 fiber types are 50% more adaptable than type 1. So eventually the type 1s get maxed out and we get fatigued. The body has to start pulling in type 2, but it's not quality type 2. So if you're looking to put on a lot of muscle mass at the beginning of a session, you can hit those 5x5, 4x6, up to 25 reps. Then you can do higher volume. You can go on a dumbbell pullover 4x12. You can go bicep curls 4x25. Then you can ramp up the volume on some of the small accessory muscles. But on the training aspect of it, it's not this what we said at the beginning. You're not training isolation. You're not going in, hey, I'm going to start with leg press, 4 sets of 15. Like you're just not going to get as much out of it as if you would take a dumbbell or a barbell and say, hey, I'm going to do heavy squats, then I'm going to do some sort of heavy pressing, then I can go 4 sets of 15 on the leg press. That's fine. But it's to go right into isolation work, it's not as much of a return of investment as people think. Now, even from a caloric burning standpoint, the more you can get off of benches and seated machines, the more calories you're going to burn, because we talked about, right, the biotensegrity of a system. Like it needs to keep us together. If you're sitting on a chest fly and just doing this, well, my abs don't need to work, my glutes don't
Yep.
need to work to stabilize. Like they're
Yep.
not doing anything. Where if I'm on a cable standing in a stagger stance, that's a whole different exercise. And it's a better exercise for you than seated down. And yes, you're not going to move as much weight. At the end of the day, no one really cares, because if you can isolate more muscles and function together, you're actually going to be more efficient and then eventually put more size on. And I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people get misled. And you and I have seen this, especially at the big box gyms where, in fairness, people don't know better. I think that's why we're out here doing these. So people understand that, if you open up a magazine, Men in Health, yes, the workouts are good, 4 sets of 10 on a bench press, 4 sets of 10 on chest flies, 4 sets of whatever. That's okay, but it's not the most efficient way to work out. And a lot of times, most of those guys that are in those magazines also don't work out like that. Like CrossFitters, we know this. They don't do WODs every day, the good ones. They train one day, one session like Olympic lifters. They train snatch progressions, clean progressions, jerk progressions. Then they can still build up to what they need to. Then later in the day, they do their conditioning portion of it. But when we get into this generalized general public, I think people think like, oh, well, they must be doing this WOD where I just, tossed 50 med balls and did, 30 cows on the aerobic bike. And then you change it up the next time. Well, there's no overload there because you're changing the complete program. And the same thing when it comes to strength training. Stick to a program long enough, it will work. Now, eventually you have to change, but 4 or 5 weeks on the same exercise, same program for beginners in general pop is usually what is recommended. And how our programs go, some even go 6 to 8 weeks if you really want to keep hypertrophy. Like those first 3 weeks, it's more of a neural adaptation. Your body's just sending that signal to gain strength, and then it will start layering the protein fibers in to build more size and more strength. That's why people like you and I, to get good at cleaning and Olympic lifting, you have to do it, and you can do it almost every day of the week, just not at a high intensity. And I think
Yeah.
people get used to switching things around too much. Oh, well, this day I did squats, and I haven't squatted in 3 weeks because I changed the exercise. Stick with something consistent. Be consistent if you're brand new to this. Now, if you're not and you've been doing this for a while, now you can really have fun and start pulling in a lot of undulating where I might squat heavy on Monday, but Thursday I squat light and move weight faster. That's the dynamics that you eventually want to get to.
And and with this kind of Eric's kind of touching on it already, the kind of the next and basically the last fundamental of strength training is specificity. And that's kind of what Eric was talking about in different examples of like, what's your goal? What are you trying to get better at? What are you trying to improve? And that's where you would kind of change the nuances of your program based on the specificity of what outcome you're looking for. It's back to kind of one of the 7 habits of highly successful people by Stephen Covey. He said, always start something with the end goal in mind. So if you're going to start a program, what's your end goal? What are you trying to get out of it? And that's where the specificity comes in, so you can incorporate your mobility overload principle and your periodization, so that everything you're doing in your programs and your weeks is leading you to that end goal, that outcome that you're looking for. And maybe that specificity changes from one program to the next. That's great. That's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
And that's why we like doing like 4-week programs, so that you can adjust these things and always be on a track towards that specific goal, that specific outcome you're looking for. And what's funny is the last principle, last fundamental of strength training is brings us back to nutrition. It's rest and recovery. So if we go top down, nutrition, mobility, overload, periodization, specificity, which we just talked a little bit about, and then rest and recovery, and you're back to the top again. Rest, sleep, time away from the gym, recovering, letting the body repair, replenish glycogen, repair muscle fibers, things like that. And then back to the nutrition to be that good fundamental for your next workout again. And you can think about these in a micro level for each individual workout. And you can think of them in a macro level for your entirety of your program as well.
Right, because a lot of people, and they miss the recovery part of it, because you can train all you want. Now, yeah, you can detrain and you can overload and you can start overtraining, which very rarely happens.
Right.
But it can happen.
But real quick, I want to make a note really quick. It's usually the people who have barely begun their program or who have worked out for maybe a couple days a week, but inconsistently, who are always asking me about, well, can I work out too much? And I'm like, trust me, we'll know, we'll worry about that when we get there, but you are far away from working out too much. So just think about that for a second. It's usually the people who aren't working very, very much at all who are wondering if they're working out too much. It's a little bit of their.
Yeah, and when that happens, when you get into that comfort zone, it changes because people think it's not because of the workouts, it's usually because they're not recovering enough. And that's the thing. If they're not recovering enough, then their performance decreases, but they blame performance. And usually it's always the recovery because people aren't getting enough protein in, they're not giving enough fluids in, they're not replenishing their glycogen stores enough. That's the whole basis of why nutrition is so important. And people do all this recovery stuff like saunas and ice tanks, which that stuff is great, but sort of like the supplements, if you don't have your nutrition under control first, that stuff's not really going to help because the system runs off of recovery from a nutrient standpoint. And that's the biggest driver of performance is if you can have quality lean body mass and function as that, then it's the most important, right? So as we start to finish up and talk about strength training, remember, you're going to want to train hard. You're going to want to train heavy, but you need to have good recovery nutrition so you can keep going because we only really train for an hour a day and you have 23 hours to build the rest of the system up and to recover from the damage you just did. And that's the most important thing, which if you don't recover enough or get enough food in, that's what leads to these overtraining symptoms, right? You start wearing down, you feel tired, lethargic, because your body's telling you, hey, I don't have the fuel in the muscles or I don't have the stamina, the strength because you didn't give me what you need to build then it's going to collapse, right? Same thing, the house analogy. If I start busting down walls with a sledgehammer and I start trying to build a house frame, but I'm using poor 2x4s and not reinforcing them with like nails and other things, eventually it's just going to collapse. And that's what people do to the body. And they really miss out on the recovery from an eating standpoint. So strength training is very important in all aspects, and everyone should be strength training because of our system, how it works, to keep us upright, to keep good posture, to keep blood flow moving. Muscles pump blood, they drain lymphatic systems out. This is all important for overall health and longevity, not just, oh, I want to look good, right? You need these muscles to move and pump and function to get us place to place, to stay out of pain, but also for a metabolic factor to stay healthy. And if people have questions on strength training, you can always reach out to us. We have a multiple options of resources for programs that we offer, that we compile together. Matt and I very much been doing this for a while and love to program for people. And we have many clients with success stories of how we've gotten them from a point A to a point B in their programmings throughout our monitoring. And that's the biggest thing, is how do we help people go from one end of the spectrum to the other with specific programming and periodization that works for that individual to gain them health, longevity, mobility, strength, and all that to do what they do. And I think Matt's back, so he can kind of take it and wrap it up if he can hear me. If not, I can keep it going.
No, I can hear you. And yeah, just to wrap up again, the fundamentals: nutrition, mobility, overload, periodization, specificity, rest, recovery, which gets us back to nutrition and then all over again. Yeah, I love having Eric on here. I'm so sorry that we had some technical difficulties on YouTube. From now on, we're just going to go to Facebook. It's a lot easier for myself to manage. Apparently, I'm really bad with computers. That's why I'm just like a caveman and I just pick things up and put them down. The next thing that I'm proud to announce is that we found a way for people to earn entries for our contest for logging workouts, which is the number one most important thing we're trying to do with these contests, is galvanize our community, make people take action. So now we've actually figured out a way so people can go on, submit their workout or a selfie of the aftermath of their workout directly to our messenger service, and you'll get 50 points, 50 entries right into the contest. You keep doing that every single day. Not only is it going to help you consistent, it's going to help you get to your goal. It's going to earn you more entries into the contest and possibly win that big grand prize. And yeah, I'm just really happy that we got that going, because that's, I think, the most important thing of this whole thing is just that people are taking action, people are taking care of themselves, and a healthier individual makes a healthier community. What's good for the hive is what's good for the bee, and what's good for the bee is what's good for the hive. So thank you very much. Matt Gluckman, Eric Menchie here, signing off. Think Fitness Life. We're here for you guys. Mindset, exercise, nutrition. For more information, check out our Facebook group on facebook.com/group/Think Fitness Life, and you can get all the training resources you need to be on the best path to achieve your goals and live your best life. Have a great week, everybody.